Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Digital CEO. Today we have a very special guest who has a 7-figure agency. He's run for 6 years. He's been out here and is a killer Frisbee thrower. We're going to talk about B2B SEO exposed, all the nonsense that you hear from people trying to do SEO so you can actually understand what really works and what doesn't. Alex Berman, so glad that you're here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. And I feel like we should do Frisbee throwers exposed because you just hyped me up. I'm terrible at Frisbee. Dennis will just like nail it. He's amazing at Frisbee. But yeah, there's total problems with the SEO industry that I would rather talk about.
And learn about what he's done at Experiment 27, about his gigantic YouTube channel. We've made some videos together, especially for agencies, but any kind of B2B, it's going to be key for you. And he has a new program, Email 10K, which is going to teach you how to drive sales without using any ads at all. Fantastic. Alex Berman is the man. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Now, what is the first thing that B2B marketers need to know about SEO?
Okay, so a lot of SEO consultants, they try to make it super complicated. But when I was working, so I was director of marketing at this agency back in New York City. We hit the Inc. 5000 3 times in a row, basically. And the reason why is we were getting so good at generating leads, and the way that we generated them was we started seeing SEO not from a, hey, I want to rank #1 in this keyword point of view, but from a, where are my leads and how do I get my content in front of those leads? Mm-hmm. So when I went in there and I wanted to rank our agency for, app developers in New York City, or I really wanted to just improve our lead flow, the first thing I did was Google app developers New York City, and I found all of these little sites that people were going to. Like #1 was this directory that's still around, huge directory called clutch.co. And so we could have gone out there and hired this SEO agency and paid them, $8,000 a month, $12,000 a month to do this crazy SEO strategy. But instead we just did profile optimization and actually ended up paying for a sponsorship on clutch.co, hit #1. And within a month, we had McDonald's talking to us. Like we had Alaska Airlines coming in, and that's the main thing when it comes to exposing SEO. It doesn't have to be this 6-month play. It doesn't have to be this 12-month play. There are things you can do right now to get in front of the right people and actually start driving leads with SEO, rather than not driving leads and just trying to go for a #1 rank.
What's the proper way to define SEO? A lot of people say search engine optimization, but what the heck does that mean?
So SEO, the traditional SEO is getting #1 on Google, #2 on Google. My main thing where we get a lot of our leads is from our YouTube channel, besides cold email. YouTube, if you don't know this, YouTube is the second largest search engine behind Google. So if you can rank for some of these keywords for your local business, like for us, cold email or sales training or some of these other ones, even rank 3, 4, 5 on YouTube, get a ton of traffic.
Yeah.
So that's SEO, is just getting in front of the right people.
Let me tell you, when we started doing Facebook ads back in 2007 and they launched the whole program, we were ranked #2 on Facebook ads on a very competitive search term with 300 million search results. And we didn't do any SEO. What we did do was we wrote lots of articles, and we were interviewed by the media on what is working and what isn't working. Or we'd get called by CNN to talk about Cambridge Analytica and what Mark Zuckerberg should do and what the government should do in terms of regulating the system, which all pointed back to us. So we were doing SEO without ever really doing SEO, because anytime we had a major media mention, like we'd look at Social Media Examiner and we get a link from them, that's a domain rank 82. Or being featured in the Washington Post, that's a 92 domain rank. Or someone else's podcast, maybe it's only a 40, but it's still passing juice. So the way we did SEO is actually doing pro-level content marketing. And that's what I think most B2B marketers don't understand, is they think they need to hire out SEO because it's technical. You literally just need to look at the other partners that you have, the other media sites, the industry associations, the conferences, the magazines, anyone who's authoritative, because they could actually drive the traffic, like Alex mentioned. But also, if their site has enough juice, you can use Moz or Majestic or Ahrefs or SEMrush, any of your favorite tools, to see who has the highest domain power. Make a list of any of them that are above 40 and offer to guest blog post. That is the easiest way to get more juice to your site. And then if you create content like Alex talks about, then that content will start to rank. Even if the links that you're getting are off of things that have nothing to do with the topic that you want to rank on, that's pushing more juice into your site.
So that's really interesting, because one of the things that I talk about a lot, and what we've done this, right? I was a contributor for Entrepreneur. I was on Forbes, Huffington Post.
Yeah.
I was on Entrepreneur on Fire, a bunch of podcasts, all through cold email outreach, exactly like you just said.
Yeah.
So you can go out there. I wasn't even doing domain rank. I would hire somebody on Upwork to just build the lead list for me. Maybe they were doing it for me. And then I would go out, and for every single one of these leads, I would write like one custom first line. I call them the custom first lines in the cold email. So, hey, Dennis, huge fan of the show. Really liked the interview you did with Alex Berman. And then the same pitch, like, hey, I'm Alex. I run, this YouTube channel where we teach people how to do sales training, and would love to come on the show and talk about how to expose SEO or whatever. Just very simple like that. Does that sound interesting to you? Thanks, Alex. Just a subject line. When we were doing this, and when we still do it, I like the simple subject lines, like hi from Alex still works amazingly well, or really would be like, hi from your name. Or quick question still works, even though Google has started to mark that as spam now automatically. That used to be Silicon Valley's secret weapon. This is the quick question subject line. Slowly dying.
My favorite tactic is just to use sites that you already have in control. So if you look at BlitzMetrics.com, because we have so many media mentions and speaking and whatnot, we have a domain rank 62. So for those of you that don't know what that means, if you're a small business, you're probably domain rank 10 or 20. If you're a mid-sized business, a small software company, maybe you're like a 30 or 40. If you are on the verge of being like a larger media player, you might be 60 or 70. And if you're like an eBay or Financial Times or a Google, then you're up at like 80 or 90. And Google's at 100. There's only a few companies that are 100. And it's on a log scale. So a 30 is not just slightly better than a 20. A 40 is not just slightly better than a 30. Think of it as a logarithmic scale, like the earthquake Richter system, so 10 times stronger at every different level. So our site as an agency is a 62, and anyone that's an agency, for example, that has some power on their domain, what we do is we link to our clients, but we don't just link in a way that Google would bust us. We'll have our clients write articles about what they're doing, about how they're following the dollar a day process, about how they're activating customers in their community, about how awesome it is to play Frisbee with Alex Berman, right? And write actually a decent article. It doesn't even have to be on a topic that we care about. And then we can put that on our blog and then link to Alex, link to Experiment 27, link to Email 10K, link to whoever else is that we want to be able to push up. As an example of this, Tristan, who runs Chiro Revenue, which is a chiropractor agency, built his domain with, well, it basically had zero power. If you look at the history, he was at a domain rank 1 up until 2 weeks ago, and we started writing some blog posts merely from a couple podcasts, and then from our main agency site, BlitzMetrics, and I think, Tristan, you're at what, a 17 or 19? Went from 1 to a 19. 1 is the lowest number you can have possible. There's no 0. 1's the lowest. And now with Juice on his site, with the different pages that are talking about marketing for chiropractors, doing SEO for chiropractors, the biggest mistakes in making videos for chiropractors, how to optimize your Google My Business for chiropractors, that's passing Juice to all of those different articles. So what I want you guys to understand is, while you can be a pro like Alex with cold outreach and being able to get on podcasts and being able to figure out who the partners are, the mechanics of SEO, from someone who worked at a search engine and built the analytics at a search engine, right, 20 years ago, the main thing that you're doing is you're pulling in juice from all the other sites that could link to you. So you could literally look, you could use any of the free tools, like use the Moz free toolbar, don't even use the paid one, and see what are the top links that are passing you juice. And if you're a B2B software company, for example, you probably want to be, I mean, there's different factors, but generally you want to be above a domain rank 40, right? And if you're there, think about what the different keywords are that you want to rank on. If it's a competitive keyword, you might need a 60 plus to be able to rank on it. If it's not very competitive, mobile app development, NYC. Maybe
mobile app development, NYC is a very high value keyword. Super competitive. The AdWords we're pushing, it was like, it had to be $100 a click on that keyword.
On PPC,
on
but
PPC,
SEO,
yeah.
but on SEO, if you did an in-title search, there weren't many people competing there, especially universal search, like you mentioned with video or news, right? Because when you do a search on Google, it starts with all, but universal searches, there's so many other kinds of search. There could be locations, places, Wikipedia, video, shopping. Like these are all, when you do a search, you see across the top, you can rank in any one of those. The easiest one to rank on is video, like Alex mentioned.
Interesting, yeah. And it totally depends on where your audience actually goes to buy from you. Like you're talking about chiropractors, the best place where, like if I was looking for a chiropractor, I feel like I would buy, more likely I'd buy on Yelp than I would buy from a YouTube video, right? If I'm looking for a sales trainer or a coach or a consultant where I'm having to talk to them all the time, I probably would be more likely to buy from a YouTube video than from a Google search, right? So the type of business that you're running, and if you're trying to sell like, I don't know, widgets or water bottles or something, that also might be better for YouTube. That might be better for Instagram or some of these other channels. So yeah, it all depends on where your customer is coming from. And that's when we talk about SEO exposed.
Yeah.
That's what it really comes down to. It comes down to, it's not really about, like you're talking about domain ranks and stuff. This is stuff I never even, I'm hearing about this for the first time right now.
You're doing it naturally.
Right.
Because you're so good at PR and content marketing. I'm looking at it from the mechanical standpoint, right? If you want to learn to play the piano, you could be a virtuoso and just know how to play because you just have it in your soul, or you could be someone like me where I'm mechanically learning exactly how to do it. Either way will work.
100%. And I think a good cold pitch, or, I mean, I'm going to try to get on your blog now too. It's guest content.
We're taking this podcast, this video, and turning it into a blog post so we can pass link to Alex. And if you're watching and you find that there's something that you know a lot about that's worth being on our blog, send it to me and we'll evaluate it.
That's great. I think if there's one thing to leave you with when it comes to SEO, when it comes to raising your domain rank, it really is, don't be afraid to make content as well. This is another thing that I'm sure you've seen with your clients too. A lot of people worry when it comes time to make content or when it comes time to get on podcasts, they don't even have anything to talk about.
Exactly.
But what I've seen consistently is you throw a microphone in front of somebody that knows something about anything and they're gonna talk about it. So Tom, who was running the agency I used to work with, we were doing all their marketing. And I remember he had never been on a podcast before, ever, but he was the CEO of a mobile app development firm. So I was like, why can't the podcast be about hiring developers? This is something you've done a million times. And he was able to do 45 minutes of content on hiring developers. No problem, no hesitation. Yeah. And it was great. So you have something, if you're trying to go out there and you're trying to like, you're trying to get in the back door with SEO, you have something that you know about that also aligns with whatever you're trying to sell. You just have to tap into that nerve.
See how easy it is? So find a subject matter expert. So if you're like me and you don't want to necessarily talk, I'm going to interview Alex and he's going to spill all his best tips. And if I don't want to be on the video, I'm going to be like Tristan. I'm going to sit behind the camera and collect that video. Then once you have that 45-minute video, you chop it up into a bunch of little pieces, little 15-second clips, little 60-second clips. Now you have Instagram stories, you have YouTube shorts, you have Facebook 1-minute videos, you have blog posts. So see how you can take that one piece of video, that one piece of content that you sat down to create with your, I like to do 30 minutes or so. Most people, they kind of run out of gas after about 30 minutes. And now you can create 50 or 60 other pieces of content. So it's visible in search, social, and messaging, because you can use components of that in your emails and your subject lines, reuse that content in so many different places.
So I've heard that. For me, okay. So I have had such a hard time getting the content to even be cut upable. So I go out there. We've been making YouTube videos 3 times a week for years now, right? We've got 52,000 subs on there now. Yeah. We get, hundreds of leads coming in a day now to our email list. And we haven't effectively been able to clone that YouTube audience on any other platform. Our Twitter sucks. It's just me ranting about Walmart stock. Yeah. Our Instagram is just me posting pictures of like me hanging out and hiking and like hanging out with my brothers. Yeah. But still, you don't really like, if you can get this to work, this is great. I need to do this. We have a team that's working on this right now.
Your domain rank is low. I did an analysis.
I know my domain rank is low. That's why.
Your content's good. You don't have enough power for
that's
Google
what we need.
To respect you. Yeah.
That's what we
Literally
need.
A couple links from us will give you that domain rank.
Great. Let's do it.
Yeah.
I think that's also something to keep in mind is even with a low domain rank, you can build a very respectable business just with it's a lot of content. I guess that's why you cut it up. All
it takes is one area. You can be really good at email or really good at video on YouTube or really good at PPC. You don't have to be in the world of B2B. If you're good at one thing, It doesn't matter if you suck at the other 15 or 20 things.
Right, and we try. I've tried a few times. I think our biggest problem when it comes to hiring, and this is, I guess, if I'm going to give advice based on my failures, is don't be afraid to actually pay for high quality content. So you might think, you go out there, you might think that you riffed the perfect 45-minute video, so it should be pretty easy to go on like rev.com, which I love, and transcribe it. But don't be afraid to pay an editor $50 to run through it, the same as you would pay for an actual piece of blog content. Because what I found recently, and I really should have learned this years ago, is if you actually pay for somebody who knows what they're doing, who speaks your language natively, who's able to actually go in and like edit the content in a usable way, then that content actually has a chance to be on some of these blogs.
You want to know what's really expensive? Hire someone who's incompetent. Hiring someone who knows what they're doing is actually really cheap because you get it done the first time and the content gets exposure, it gets leads. We were looking at, I'm not going to name who it is, but this morning we were doing an audit and these folks were getting, basically their conversion rate was a third of what it should have been because they didn't pimp out their content. And I said, what do you think the cost is? How much money do you think that firm lost over the last few years by being cheap about their content?
Millions.
Yeah, literally, right?
That's the other thing about, okay, so you're an established business owner. I just hired this guy, Carlos, so I've talked about this on the channel, so it's fine. We boosted the price of our course from $1,000 to $5,000, and our sales dropped to 0, right? And I paid Carlos, I don't know, like $5,000 to do, consulting on this campaign where we're raising our price. But the cost when you're running a business, you're not just like an entrepreneur, it's not the idea phase, like the dip in sales cost us maybe 30 grand, 40 grand on top of the 5K that we already paid. Yeah. So that's 100%, like, talk about doing it right the first time. Sometimes you can even overpay and have it not work out also.
Yeah. And just because they're expensive doesn't mean they're necessarily good. And a word on hiring SEO consultants, don't. Don't. From someone who's worked at the search engines, unless that consultant has a domain rank of, let's say, 60 plus. Now, DR is not the only thing that you're going to look at, but would you take advice from a broke millionaire coach? Would you take public speaking from someone who stutters? Would you trust an obese weight loss coach? Like, you're not.
Would I take advice from a broke millionaire coach? So I was on a cruise, and there was this guy who was like, kept talking about he was a millionaire and he kept gaining and losing millions of dollars, but that's because he had a gambling problem. So you could listen to the coach who might be broke because he has a gambling problem too.
Well, there was someone.
That's the outlier. That's not the advice.
This lady came to me and said that she wanted us to promote her course on how you can make your first $1 million online. And I thought, great. The price is going to, she asked what the price was. I said, the price is going to be $1 million. She said, I can't do that. I can maybe afford a couple $1,000s. And then once we're making money, we can. And I said, okay, well, you probably should take your course then come back and let me know. Right.
That's pretty funny.
So in the world of SEO, if you don't understand how search engines work, you shouldn't be selling these services. And if you haven't worked at a search engine, if you're not working closely with search engines, and by the way, I piss off a lot of people when I speak at conferences about that because I'm right and they know I'm right. Most of the people, 99% of the people selling SEO, I'm going to get hate on this, I know it. 99% of the people that are selling SEO services, they're not bad people, they're just incompetent. They're often white labeling someone else's services, and they're paying that person $500 a month, and they're marketing up to $3,000 a month, whatnot. Like, I don't really know. I mean, I know I need to offer SEO as part of PPC and landing pages and creative and all these other things, but never hire out SEO unless they have a high domain rank and they can tell you exactly how they're building links. Otherwise, use one of the tools that we talked about. Look at your site and see where the links are coming from. They will measure, any of the major tools will measure how many new inbound links you have and how much power is coming from those particular links. Are they followed, no follow? What's the page rank or domain rank on those? You can look at their site, you can look at your site. If for some reason you've already hired an SEO consultant, you can run those reports every month and see exactly what's going on. That way, they cannot BS you on what's going on. If you do great content marketing, great selling, all the stuff that Alex is talking about and I'm talking about, you will already be way ahead of whatever an SEO consultant can do. Because it's not about knowing how the search engines work. It's about having great content that people in your industry actually are willing to feature. So it's really dependent upon your relationships and your knowledge. So if I know nothing about your industry, I can't help you with your SEO.
I work with a lot of agency owners, so I know what a lot of people are thinking, right? I am an SEO. Let's say I'm an SEO agency. I'm so busy with my clients' projects that I don't have time to rank my own site.
Cobbler's son has no shoes, I hear.
Yeah, that's a common issue I see with marketing agencies too. They suck at marketing. Like, okay, they're a Facebook growth agency and they have no likes on Facebook. They're a Twitter growth agency with no followers. Yeah.
How many people hit you up every day on LinkedIn saying they want to help you drive sales, but they themselves don't know how to drive sales?
I don't know. I can't even open my LinkedIn anymore. It's all spam.
Or people coming to us every day. Literally last week, someone came to us saying, hey, we can help you use Facebook marketing to be able to drive more leads. And I'm thinking, bro, dude, did you look up who we are and what we do? That's not the issue. So don't hire something that you don't understand how to measure and exactly, and especially in the world of SEO, because there's a lot of hocus pocus. And if you're an SEO agency, now is a great time to learn how if you're white labeling out to someone else, understand what they're doing. There are some legit techniques like building out more pages, doing PR, but not like that fake press release kind of distribution service, but actually doing community management and looking at people that have linked to you and trying to get more links. Look at the links that you've lost on your site because your webmaster broke the site or had a domain migration, like the new website. Usually they lose all these links, right? Lose all this great juice. There's a lot of things they could do, but the most powerful thing is building links, which is someone in your industry who has high domain authority who links to you because they wrote a post about you, or more often you wrote a guest post to put on their site to come to you. So if you don't have at least 100 pages on your website and you're in the world of B2B, you're not even playing the game of SEO. If you don't have at least 100 unique referring domains, doesn't count. If you don't have at least a good mix of domain authority of a bunch of like domain authority 10 sites, 20, 30, 40, if you don't have a good mix of these over time, which is called velocity, link velocity, then the search engines are going to look at you and say, I don't think they're legit. And you know why that's the case? Because I built these algorithms 20 years ago, right? I would speak on stage and these people who were SEOs would come up and try to argue with me. I'm like, bro, that's like arguing with the police, right? You're a criminal and you're so proud of how you stole cars or robbed the bank, and you're going to come tell the cop what you're doing. I already know your techniques. My job was to bust people that were trying to do this. So I'm sorry, I can get on my soapbox and talk about SEO, but I just want you guys to understand what is real SEO and what is not. Every technique that Alex is talking about is ultimately about driving sales.
Literally all I care about is leads and sales. Yeah.
Yep.
As I'm hearing this though, I'm like, okay, there's a million things we could do better, which is also the place to be as an entrepreneur. Cause I know that I always assume that we suck. I always assume we suck. And I'm surprised that we have the lead flow that we do, because we only own the YouTube channel. I'm surprised at how large the scale of just owning, a 50,000 sub YouTube channel is. So I could just imagine that, yes, we're owning the YouTube channel. You're on the right podcast. You're getting leads from those right podcasts. Yeah. But then you start doing what Dennis is talking about and you start ranking on Google. You start, boosting your domain rank up. I can only imagine the scale that even a company like us could achieve with that.
Well, the millions of views that you have on your YouTube channel and the 57,000 subs or whatnot, of the videos that you're getting, you're looking at your analytics, what % are from people who've watched related videos?
What percentage of people?
Of the people that are watching your videos, because YouTube breaks it down in insights, where are those videos coming? Where are the viewers coming from?
So a lot of the views are coming from, most of them are actually coming from YouTube ads now. I'm pushing like hardcore our videos to salesmen in the United States, 4 to 6 cents a view. And the reason why I started doing that is because I hated the typical like SEO approach that the YouTube gurus teach, which is like, here's our list of topics that the audience wants to hear about. Make a video on each one of these, because I am actually of the opinion that all of those YouTube gurus are wrong, and that's not how you grow a YouTube channel. But that's one. And then, 2, we get actually a lot from keywords. So we'll rank for like if you search proposal template, I think we're number 1 or number 2. If you search cold email, my face is on there. I think some collab video I did with Entrepreneur, which also I guess is right up that SEO line. So it's a lot of search traffic. And then recently Google has started really incorporating the videos too. Yep. Into the search results as well.
Absolutely. And then now YouTube Shorts, which is in beta. But if you create 1-minute vertical videos on YouTube and you have shorts in the headline, it goes crazy. If you're on your phone and you open up YouTube, there's something called the YouTube Shorts shelf, which is absolutely insane. See, look, here I'm opening up YouTube, and you can see I'm opening up YouTube here. And if you scroll, oh, look, there's our little thing right there. Right. We're live. Look, everybody. And I scroll down. You see this? You see where it says short videos, right? The short shelf, absolutely dominating. And people are literally, you can see here, people are literally just reposting other videos they have their shop. They're not even making new videos here. See that? That's the short shelf. So the key thing for you to understand, if you're like, oh, I've got so many things going on, I'm busy, I don't have this large marketing team, I'm trying to drive more sales. Start with the thing that's working. So Alex has it working in terms of cold outreach and YouTube. How do you extend that?
You know who's killing it on shorts is Legal Eagle. I don't know if you've watched him. He's this lawyer that does like political law teardowns, but he'll do like a 40-second video just reacting to whatever the news of the day is. And he's been killing it on shorts recently. Like they're getting millions of views.
See? You're taking stuff you've already created and you're taking advantage of TikTok or YouTube Shorts or whatever the channel is, or maybe you're on Clubhouse and you're building relationships. Think about how you can extend upon the thing that's working. So for us, we've made our bread and butter through things like Facebook ads and Google ads. So our natural extension is into organic, because if we're paying for it, then let's find a way to get it for free, right? But maybe we're getting it for free from SEO because we're really good at choosing the keywords and creating great content like you have. How do I use paid to be able to extend that? So think about what is the thing that you're doing really well and use that to extend. The way I see it is SEO is for free, but it takes time. If you're really good like Alex and you can write on Entrepreneur and Forbes and Inc. and these other places, which is high ranking because those are authority news level publications, awesome. But if you don't have that, think about how you could look at of the different partners you have, who has the most SEO power, and put content on their site. Literally do that, and you don't even need to understand anything else about SEO.
I'm surprised at how easy it was to write for all those, honestly. Like,
because you create great content.
Yeah, but when you pitch it in the cold, thank you. When you pitch it in the cold email, all we had was the title.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I even
up and they see how good your content is.
That's really interesting to know, because this was even a couple of years ago. I had Lauren Feldman, who was I think he was the lead editor at Forbes on my YouTube channel, and he was even saying the same thing. He's like, if you pitch great content or great sounding content, we'll feature you. It doesn't even really matter what your background is or anything. Yeah. So, I mean, if you can figure out how to create great content, I guess this is why the guru business for YouTube is so broken. Yeah. I think it's really hard to teach the content creation side of things. But I do think if you're speaking on something that you understand and you're speaking on something that you're passionate about, and it's your business every day, like my cousin sells medical supplies here in Vegas. And if he was just talking about medical supplies, gloves and stuff like that, I bet he could go for 3 hours on that. He could write a book on medical supplies.
And I bet you he'll outrank anybody else, because who's going to produce that much content?
Right.
One of my friends, his name is Mitch Wilson, and he's the next door neighbor to Jim Carrey in Maui. Okay. He's made millions of dollars off of SEO, and what he does is every day he goes live about every single pro sports thing out there. Think about how many games there are across how many sports. He's creating more videos for each game than ESPN, right? No one has created like literally 10 or 12 live videos, and he says, such and such team versus such and such team. I predict it's going to be this score or that score because this player's injured and blah, blah, blah. And literally does a 1-minute video, goes live from the hotel room or from the beach when he's surfing and whatnot. And this guy he says he knows nothing about digital. He says he's a simple kind of guy. He's been doing it for years. I see him at the conferences. I've logged into his analytics, and he's used Alex's strategy by just producing lots of amazing content. And he'll say, I don't really know anything. I don't have a good camera. I'm not even a good speaker. But what he discounts is how much knowledge he has, because he's been doing it for such a long time. So we call that imposter syndrome, where you have depth of expertise in a particular area. If you sit down, like we'll do, and we'll write a list of items here on a Post-it note, maybe choose 5 or 6 bullet points and talk about each of those for 3 or 4 minutes, you'll have your video, and you can chop that up in lots of little pieces.
Okay, talk about hacks. If you really want to write content as well, what you can do, and what I've found is like, if I'm really hurting for content, and let's say I want to write about, like headlines or something new, you can Google headlines, figure out what the top blog posts are, and just look at literally what their bullet points are. Yeah. Then, like, don't steal their tips or anything, but like, use action words in your headline would be like one of them. You write that in your Google Doc, and then you can just riff on each one of those. Yeah. And if you know what you're talking about, if you're not just like making it up, you should be able to come up with real original content around each of those for somebody else's bullet points. Yeah, I'll do this too. I'll look at YouTube and see what's ranking on the keywords I want, or Google, which is, YouTube's part of that. And I'll make a better version of it, right? I'm not trying to copy them, but if I can say it more clearly, or if I can be more entertaining, or I appeal to a different audience, I don't even have to be better. And then on top of that,
I have higher production value. So here we have a studio with a nice light and it's from a nice camera, but you could replicate this for $200, pretty close to this. Then you're going to beat these other people merely because it's more entertaining and it's done a little bit more professionally. There's more pizzazz. There's a nice thumbnail. You can beat out other people just with a nicer thumbnail, just with a nicer headline. The headline is worth as much as the article in SEO. A lot of people don't know that.
That's interesting. And the thing that I like to do also is, so it's always going to be unique to you, because for every single one of these bullet points, I'm telling a personal story. So if it's like, use action words in your headline, then I'll talk about the headlines on the Email 10K landing page. But you can check that out at email10k.com. But it's like, literally, I will tell a personal story about how I was thinking about the headlines, and then I decided to use action words, and then it would work out. So everything's going to be fully unique to you if you're telling personal stories based on somebody else's bullet points there.
There you go. So any final tips we didn't talk about for B2B SEO?
For B2B SEO, the only thing that matters is lead flow. That's it. It's lead flow and getting qualified people to look at your content. So if you think about everything through that lens, everything else should be clear. Whatever your traction channel is that's going to hit should be clear based on who your audience is and where they're actually looking. Whether you should focus on Google, whether you should focus on YouTube, etc. All of that is looking you in the face as soon as you start really understanding what your customers are doing to find a business like yours.
Man, that is amazing. Can you imagine if you had Alex here and you were able to have a wonderful Korean barbecue dinner with him and play Frisbee and suck all the amazing juice out of his brain and then record it here on a podcast? That's the ultimate SEO hack.
That's a good SEO hack. That Korean barbecue was great too.
So think about don't just listen to what all these other influencers and consultants are telling you. Look at what is actually working. Look at what Alex and I are actually doing in terms of driving results. Don't buy somebody's ridiculous course if they're not actually living and proving the things that they're doing. So here in Digital CEO, you'll see that we're going through the exact tips that we're using. We're interviewing other people like Alex Berman, who are absolutely incredible, so that you guys can grow your business. If you like what you're hearing and seeing, hit like, hit the subscribe button. Alex, where can people follow you?
If you want free content, go over to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Alex Berman. And if you want to grow your business, you want to start your business and start using cold email to reach golden geese, so billion-dollar brands, you want to start working with large companies that pay you more without ads, go to email10k.com.
Email10k.com. See you guys.
Later.